Are there any books or resources that you encourage people to read to get a better understanding of narrative or these different forms of narrative? And what came to my mind, even though it's not directed at potential novelists, is a book called Save the Cat Goes to the Movies that examines different genres within screenwriting.
So that's not the original Save the Cat.
No,
that's
it's not.
the new one. So I do recommend Save the Cat, but Save the Cat Goes to the Movies. I haven't read that. That sounds good.
It's fun. Yeah. The first one's also excellent. I mean, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So Save the Cat is it's a really good leaping off point. And if you want the opposite of Save the Cat, On Writing by Stephen King is a leaping off point in Save the Cat's about structure and On Writing's about the life of a writer and not structure. And those will give you kind of two of the kind of, different viewpoints on storytelling, and they're both very good. My agent always recommends Writing to Sell by Scott Meredith. I find it a little too structure focused. There is art to writing. And the dirty secret of outlining is you're still going to have to learn to garden. Because, you'll have these points in the outline, but then when you sit down to write them, you're a gardener getting between these 2 points in the outline. And so both skills are really important. But Scott Meredith, I did read that and like it quite a bit.
So where do you fall in general or now between the gardening or gardener and architect?
I've tried all the tools. I have a middle grade series called Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians, which are pure garden. I actually use a method a little like, you know the old show, Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Sure.
I pull a bunch of ideas, I brainstorm a bunch of random ideas, and then I say, I've got to use all of these. Go. And I write a story without an outline. That's to practice the tool. And I generally fall these days on a 75% outline sort of thing. I do a lot of building on my plot, and I do a lot of building on my setting. And then I write my way into characters. I feel like that one of the big dangers of outlining too much is characters that feel wooden or cardboard because they're there merely to get you between point A and point B, and then, from point B to point C on your outline. And if you have characters that your early readers are like, these feel a little wooden, it might be because instead of going according to the character's motivations, you're just going according to the outline. And I find that if I let myself write my way into character and then rebuild my outline.
Now, writing your way into character, by that you mean you're creating the setting, the environment.
And the plot.
And the plot.
But then I rewrite the plot once I know the character. So here's my process. I start usually with a couple of really good ideas, right? I usually want to have multiple interesting ideas for my setting, at least one hook for each character.
Could you give an example of the starting point?
Yeah. So I'll build it from one of my books, Mistborn, right? So Mistborn had a series of ideas. The first idea came, I was reading Harry Potter back in the Harry Potter boom. And I thought, man, these Dark Lords never get a break, right? Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Wheel of Time, there's this Dark Lord. And what happens is like some furry-footed British kid throws their ring in a hole and their entire empire collapses. Or, there's a kid you're going to kill and the power of a mother's love protects him. How can you plan for the power of a mother's love when you're a Dark Lord? That's just a complete oddball. And I think they never get a break. What if the Dark Lord won? What if Frodo got to the end of Lord of the Rings with the ring and Sauron was there? He's like, my ring. You know how long I've been looking for that? Thank you so much that must have been a hard journey bringing that all the way here. Thank you. And then killed him and took over the world, right? That's like, what if? And I thought, that's a downer of a book. I don't know that I want to write a book about the traditional hero's journey that ends with the Dark Lord winning, but it went in the back of the head, right? And then I have a deep and abiding love of the heist genre. Sneakers is one of my favorite films of all time, oldie but goodie. The Sting, all the way up to kind of, the Ocean's 11s and the Italian Job, both the old one and the new one, just the Inception. You do a good heist, you can get me. And as a writer, some of your light bulb moments are when you're like, hey, I love this thing and I've never written about it. And that's gold. When you feel like you've covered everything and then you realize there's some area of passion and love that you haven't tapped at all. And I'm like, I need to do a fantasy heist. What if I did a heist where every member of this heist crew had a magical talent and they all combined together? I'm like, nobody's done this. It was really kind of a big deal to me when I realized no one had done this, because as a writer, you're always looking for the things that no one has done. And the truth is everyone's done everything. But when you find something, you're like, I can't think of a major story that has done a full-on heist in fantasy. I was super excited. Then I realized fantasy heist, Dark Lord won, team of thieves rob the Dark Lord. I have a plot. That's my Inception. Meanwhile, I want a good idea for each character. And so Mistborn's about two characters. One is about Kelsier, who is my concept for him, for myself, was the gentleman thief who had lived his life, conning people, kind of small-time cons, but living among upper society where he liked to do, that something went horribly wrong, and he found out, he's like, I haven't been making the world a better place. I haven't been helping anyone. I've just been coasting on my charm, and has a crisis of conscience on, should I be actually using this to do something? And, what happens is his wife is killed, his heist goes wrong, and he decides he wants revenge, and he's going to do it by robbing the Dark Lord, right? That's my concept for him. My concept for Vin, who's the other main character, is this idea of a young woman who lives in this world, who has the magical talent and doesn't know it. And I'm looking for a conflict, right? For her conflict is she's managed to remain a good person, but she's lost her belief that anyone else is good. Mm-hmm. She gets betrayed in some ways that just makes her give up on kind of humanity in general. And the idea is putting them two together. Kelsier, who still kind of has this deep and abiding optimism. Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm going to do something good. He's learned optimism, right? He's learned I need to do something good with my life. And he's like by force. And her, who's lost it. And she becomes the apprentice to him as he recruits her into the team. And this idea of a heist where these two people are growing.